Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Social Science 1 contact session for as you prepare for your upcoming assignment. My name is Benjamin Nathaniel, your tutor for this module. Let's start. We actually just let me first just give an overview of why I am here today. It's actually just to give you a sort of hints and also to establish a communication between myself and you, so that we can actually be in touch as we walk down the road toward the attainment of your qualification for this Bachelor of Education Senior Primary course. To put everything in perspective, I just want to orientate you to where you are now. For the course that we are doing, which is Bachelor of Education Senior Primary, this is now Social Science 1. So your whole course consists of 547 credits. Now that's a very, very big course. So you have Social Science 1, which consists of 14 credits. Now 14 credits, this is just a small portion of that whole course that you have. You have other modules, physical science, mathematics, English, and all those things, natural sciences. But this is only for Social Science 1. And I know if you are doing Social Science 1, you're probably starting, this is probably your first year, or unless you already gave it a shot last time and you didn't succeed. But I hope this is your first time, so you are sort of new kids on the block. Okay, let's talk about the notional hours. That's not national hours, but notional hours. That's just an equivalence of how many hours you need to put in, the effort you need to put to gain that 14 credits. So it's just based on literature that normally each credit should take you 10 hours. So that's why it's 140 hours. This is a course for the next for the semester that's upcoming, and it's on distance. Right. Now that's general information about the course itself. But let's also go to the assignment information now. This assignment that you are about to, you should have already started if you have received your assignment question papers. The assignment that you have to do, we are going to ask you, the assessment of this course is based on one assignment, which is of 130 marks. Now, out of that 130 marks, you need at least 50%, and that is 65 out of 130 if you have to say it in the number itself, but percent, you need 50% to get you through the examination. Through your assignment to the examination, which will be 1 times 3 hour paper examination. So for that examination, you also require 50% or more, and then the final one will be according to the way your exam will weigh 60%, and then your CA will weigh 40%, and then the sum of those two makes your final mark. So it's of course indeed that the CA carry a lower weight a bit, because sometimes, as we've seen from experience, people don't really put more effort in the CA. Somebody can help for the assignments, but I strongly recommend that you do assignments for yourself, and maybe just give it to your tutor or to anybody you trust to if you feel like you need any other assistance. Okay, that's assessment information. Now for the assignment that you have now, this is more or less what was in the preceding slide. I've already reflected on all this, just maybe to focus on the due date. That now you can either target, which I recommend, the 15th of January 2018, so that you can qualify for the April exam, or you can target 15 June 2018 so that you can qualify for the August exam. Now there's something about due dates that I want to share a little bit with you. Due dates are just some lines drawn that says any activity should be due at that time, but you do not have to, in fact, set yourself a new due date. You don't work toward due, because we are always, as we approach due date, that's when we start doing things, and when we start doing things in a rush, we come up with irrational answers and all the things. So if you can just set your own due date, which is probably a week or two before that, and work on that due date, it will be very useful. Okay, the structure of the assignment is that it's going to be, or it is selected in 3 parts. The first one is just a general methodology. Now, there you just need to know questions like, why do we need, what's the value of social science in the Namibian curriculum, for example? What are the methods of teaching? How do you prepare a lesson plan? And what are the methods of assessment? So that is more or less the first 3 units of your study guide. Now section B, which will be more of specialized, but you will get more specialized if you go to other modules, social science 2, 3, 4, up to 5, wherever you go. But like I said, the social science one is really to set a scene, and is focused on grade 5. So it's more general. The geography part has a little component of map work, a little component of understanding relationship between rainfall and temperature and vegetation, just to open your learners the eye, or the eyes to see how do they relate, how do people and the environment relate, what are the interdependence between the biosphere, which is people and animals and vegetation, and then we have the other areas, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, and the atmosphere. But we continue to section C, which will be more on history. We need to know the whole history of Namibia since, or at least earlier, before the colonialism part, but the most focus, especially from 1914, after South Africa, at the time when South Africa took over, up to 1990, we need to know all these historical events, so that we are able to always contextualize why we are like this now. Why is any other community, let me say Ovadimba community or Hero community, have this kind of living or whatever. So we need to link our present to our past, and then only then we can actually use the past and the present to talk about the future. So I already talked about the 50% pass mark, so let's continue now here. Some of these instructions are already on the cover of your paper, because we only have 40 minutes and already 12 minutes in our 40 minutes. I don't have to go much in this one, but most what I would advise is that please pay attention to the instructions on the cover. I mean, on the instruction on the assignment, and also the tips at the end of your tutorial letter. They really and they are there for the purpose. So don't just scan through and say you get it. So try to read it and really try to understand the whole purpose and all that. Just to reflect a bit about the structure of basic education, of which you are part as you are going to teach, because this is a course that you want to prepare you actually for this lower primary, upper primary phase of the primary education. So when we have the input, which is, I don't know if you can see the mouse here or the cursor, the input that we have as younger or young people enter the phase through early childhood development, ECD, and they enter the primary, so they go to lower primary, and then they'll come and meet you. You meet them. You meet each other at upper primary. Now you are going to prepare them for junior secondary. So, and when we reach the senior secondary, that's grade 12, and then that's when now we go for tertiary studies, and some people go for. So your preparation at that stage, you are actually at the center of the two phases: pre-primary and lower primary, and junior secondary. And but as you go to social science 4 or 5, then you are going to be at the phase of junior secondary, right? This, you can also try to look at these things. Very important is just from the National Curriculum on Basic Education for 2010. You Google it, you find it at NIED website. That's the National Institute for Education Development. So, and these are the documents that we need to familiarize ourselves with, so that we know what is the role that we are in, that we are going to play, or that we are willing to play as we enter the education sectors. Because I know some of you are already teaching, some are still trying to get to that level. The upper primary phase where we are now, so we are seeing that we want to develop skills in natural sciences, social sciences, technology and arts. So we fit here in social sciences, but as we teach, we must also know that we are not in isolation. We are teaching learners who are sandwiched, not only sandwiched, even because they are between many areas, from mathematics, from natural sciences, from or other those basic or curriculum of basic education include arts and physical education. Right. The place of social sciences in the education system, as we said, and that is more or less already responding to the first question of your assignment. What is really the place of social sciences in the education system? How, for example, if you are sitting there and thinking, for example, if the world population, for example, is 7 billion, and Namibia we are at 2.3 million. So you start already thinking, compare ourselves, what fraction of are we in the world, and what does our population have to do with the resources? Why, for example, do we have refugees leaving Libya, crossing at their own risk the Mediterranean seas and all that? Why do we have poverty, for example, in Okavango region more than in Oshana, for example? Why do we have war in Sudan and South Sudan now? So these are the things that we need to be putting in perspective as we teach our students. And now this is probably a tenth of things that we should be thinking about as we teach our learners at grade 5 level. Because if we don't know, for example, why do we have a block like SADC? Why, for example, a country like Botswana depends on us as we give them access from their imports. Let me say imports coming through other countries, they have to come through ships. And then we have SADC to facilitate all these things, and we have maybe SACO to facilitate the customs and all these things. You have all these kind of interrelations between the whether the local neighborhood or the global neighborhood. Why do we have United Nations? Why do we have World Health Organizations? Because if there is an epidemic in Angola, in the southern part of Angola, and there is no a transnational link for us to get it, we will be in the dark until the epidemic reach us. But now, if you have a World Health Organization, for example, then you are able to be told, no, there is this type of epidemic in Angola. Can you prepare for it? Can you put necessary arrangements for vaccination and all these things? So that is at this time of your course at grades 5 to social science 1. These are the areas we want to, or this is the knowledge or skill we want to instill in the learners, so that they understand the relationship between countries, the link between history and culture, the link between poverty and population and all these other things. Climate change is playing a very big role in the current political discourse. We need also to know the relationship between our current or environmental practice, and how does it lead to emissions that eventually lead to climate being changing and or being variable and all this other stuff. So as you embark on this course, try to get value for your money. You are paying for this course, so use me and my tutor. So bombard me with questions. There's no problem. At the end there, I'm also going to put some suggestions that I want us to be more interactive, more communicative, and all these type of things. Right. So from experience, we have I have had really for the past few years I've been teaching this course. Uh, Learners completely ignore, and even on your study guide, it's very very emphasized that you must pay attention to the keywords in question. A question that asks you to discuss, and I don't know how many times I should say this to, but you are, like I said, new kids on the block. When we say a question discuss, I don't expect any listing with bullets and all these things. That's not a discussion at all. When the question says explain, you don't discuss the whole page and start and putting in your own understanding of the things when you're just supposed to explain based on some evidence, right? So this way I took this from this source, but you also have these ones in your study guide, but this is just to supplement, because as I always say, learning has no boundary. Don't confine yourself to the study guide. In fact, study guide only supposed to set a basis of your learning. You learn and you explore. So try to get that site. We can also share it through other platforms if we have to maybe to have an email group or a WhatsApp group later, but we will talk about that so that we can also be sharing some of this critical information as we go by. So in example, for example, I gave an example here when we say discuss steps. So there's a question, for example, that says discuss steps to follow when you are using a source-based method. So the moment you start using a lot of bullets here, you're already losing the track. So discussing as we go back to our definition here, it says it requires an answer that explains an item or concept and then gives details with supportive information with examples that for and for against and all these things. So now it depends on the nature of the of that question. Now in your assignment you can have a question that says discuss steps to follow. Now it says steps, but you don't have to bullets too much like steps, like it doesn't have to be in that way. So like I give hints there, define what is it, provide example of various sources. Maybe you could give even an example as it is in that way, and then you say based on that on this source I would ask a question like this, and each of that question under discuss, I think is in the first 3 questions of your assignment. It's just a mere 4 marks. Now in fact so that require a very very short answer but informative answer. So having an answer that covers a page just for 4 marks completely makes no sense. So try always to link your question, the length of your answer, to the marks that you can see appropriated to that question. Right. There are also some various sources I want to introduce to you, especially when it comes to map work. That is on this section B of your assignment. I would like you to read as a supplement to your study guide. Please read this Atlas of Namibia. It's an Atlas of Namibia which is we have only one national atlas which define all the things, including rainfall, including vegetation, including soils and all the things, and then the all other physical features, mountains and everything, rivers that we have in the country. So that atlas, because if you have no understanding of the link between, for example, rainfall and vegetation, then you will not be likely, because the questions that will be that are asked, whether in the exam or in the test, I mean in the assignment, in the exam, always you need to reflect your understanding of issues in the country, because the examples that we'll be giving you we don't need an example from Ethiopia or something that shows that you have copied it somewhere, because you are not you are not supposed to know Ethiopia or Ghana better than you know Namibia. So most of your examples that you provide, unless otherwise specified that it must be a national or an African whatever, try to provide local examples. For population data, which we also have, okay, that is for the Atlas of Namibia. That's for mostly for map information. Practice mapping using those information, using all those legends. There's a lot of legends. There's a lot of map information on that atlas. But for the most population information, what we need to know about population density of Namibia, population density of a certain region in Namibia. If you take on this course and you don't even know that we are 2.3 million in Namibia, then seriously you will have a tough time answering questions that will come up. So try to understand local population characteristics, including the density, the distribution, and the physical feature, the link between physical features or even other social aspects with the current population. So for that reason, I recommend you download this Atlas of Namibia. It's if you just type in your web or your search engine, you type in Horizon, you get to the website where you can find this, or you can actually just type in Atlas of Namibia population, you will get it. It's a bit old, but also try to get the report for the previous population census, which was in 2011. It's also available here. Please, this information are very critical as you take on this course, especially when it comes to social science. This is NSA, that's Namibia Statistics Agency. You can also just type in your search engine Namibia Statistics Agency. You go to downloads or documents, whatever, explore that website and get the relevant documents that you need for your course. All right, as we go toward the end, I would like to reflect on one thing that we all keep making mistakes, which is academic dishonesty. And of this, 99% of most assignments that I've marked have either plagiarized most part of it or some parts of it. So, and I keep advocating that let's be discouraged from this practice. The IOL, if you have also the information booklet and all the things, it's completely forbidden. It's not accepted by any other institution, whether of higher learning or other institutions. It's not an good academic practice. So I can't read that whole text, but if you can read it later in your presentation, and also get to the website where this text is from. But it's also explained very well in your study guide. But try as much as possible to avoid this practice. If you are being asked a question about the history of Namibia between 1904 and 1989, you have to read those sources and come up with something of your own understanding based on those sources. Taking those sources as they are requires that you provide the citation of that source and also referencing of that source, which is what we call good academic practice. Right. I would like also to emphasize more on your communication. Try to use us. Like I said, this is you need to get the most out of. If you're serious to enroll for this course, get the best out of it. The course coordinator for this for Bachelor of Education Senior Primary is Ms. Elena Ingo. I guess this information can be provided you by IOL themselves, not me, but I provide my own. So it's also at the end. At the beginning I'm on the first slide, but I still want to emphasize it here. That's my cell phone number, that's my email, but I would also like to propose that we can come up with a sort of a WhatsApp group for Social Science 2, for Social Science 1, if we can arrange for this, where we can now share those quick. You can post your question there, then either another student or myself can reply to that question, and then we can keep these things very, very interactive, and get the best out of our course. So thank you very much. That's the end of the presentation. Please try to contact me, especially try to set your due date before we reach the festive season. We only have 2 months before we go to December. So if you can start your assignment and do them well before you reach December, or let me say the first half of December, it might just do you very well. Right. Thank you very much, and best luck.